Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 15, Working with Life Instead of Against It. In this episode, we talk about how valuable it is to use your resources, time, and energy to work with how things are rather than complaining about how you think things should be. Enjoy the show, everybody.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here today.
And in this episode, what we're going to talk about is, instead of using your valuable time and your valuable energy to complain about and to talk about how things should be, actually figure out how things are and start to work with it.
So one of the things that you should use is really become aware of the energy that you have within you and then also in the environment. So there's natural laws that you can use that are surrounding you every day. And if you use those to your advantage, you're going to notice a big difference in your life, and you're not going to feel like you're draining your energy by focusing on things that you really can't change.
Right, so that's one aspect of it, is the laws of nature. So figure out how life works, how nature works, and then start to work with it. Figure out how everything in life works. So, for example, going back to high school, whenever I was in math class or algebra or any kind of math class, I'd always try to make up my own rules. I would be doing the steps, and then the sixth step of the problem would seem like it would go to the right, but the math rule would be to the left. So it was always very confusing, and I can remember fighting against how I thought things should be in math rather than figuring out how the math rules actually work and working with them. And once I started to work with how math actually works, it started to come a lot easier to me. And I think that once we start to do that with everything in life, figure out how things actually work and how they truly are, things start to come easier to you.
Yeah, and it's like Wayne Dyer says in the movie The Shift. He talks about a leaf. If you have a leaf that's trying to flow upstream, it would take a lot more energy for it to actually happen. It probably won't even flow up there. If you just let go and relax and surrender and allow the stream to come down and the leaf to flow with it, it's really a natural law and it makes more sense. So I always think of that when I'm trying to focus in on what is good for me, what's good for my energy, what's good for my business. And I think that's a lot of the things too. When I first started my business, I know Tony knows exactly what happened with my business at the very beginning. I kept on feeling like, well, why do I have to do an opt-in? Why do people have to type in their email when they come to my website? And it's something that actually benefited my business. And when I stopped resisting that technology and started to really just learn and take baby steps, that's when things started to flow more.
Exactly, and I watched her do it too, to where she started to figure out how building an online business actually works. And then she started to work with that rather than being upset and frustrated on how she thought it should work. And I know that a lot of people probably have that same issue. I know that with the internet coming out, or it's relatively new, it's a baby, relatively speaking, and it's starting to take over a lot of jobs. It's starting to, actually, a lot of businesses are shutting down. I think Macy's shut a lot of stores, and I think Best Buy too, and like a lot of other stores are shutting down. And I hear a lot of people talking about the internet, how it's a bad thing because of that, and how it's because their husband or their wife or somebody in their family lost a job because of it, which that's very, very sad and that sucks. But guess what? It is what it is. We have no choice on whether the internet is going to take over. It's like Bill Gates said, we have no choice on whether technology is going to take over. It is. It's taking over. So we could either complain about it and talk about and use all of our energy to talk about how it should be, or we could actually use that energy and figure out how to work with the technology that is starting to take over.
Right. So I know some people, when Tony first was going back to school, when he first moved to Florida, you started to use eBay because eBay was really popular at that point. I feel like eBay still is. Amazon, I feel like, is getting a little bit bigger. But he would take his old cell phones, sell them on eBay, purchase cell phones from, what was it, Craigslist? How did you
Sometimes Craigslist, and then sometimes actually eBay, and then I would sell them back on eBay.
Yeah, so you could actually do that. You can use the internet to your advantage. Just like with everything going on with the government, people could blame the president. We're not going to get into political talk here. But the big thing is a lot of people blame the government on, oh, well, if the government was this way, then I would be doing this. Or if we had a different president, then this would be this way. And when I hear those things, I'm thinking, oh, I just wish that everyone would have the education to really know that they have the power within them to shift things that are happening around in their environment. Because if you really, really focus on everything outside of yourself in a negative way and not use it to the advantage, you're going to be a really miserable and bitter person when it comes to doing anything. You're going to be like trudging your feet, like, oh, I don't want to do this because teachers don't get paid enough. You know, I heard that all the time when I was teaching in the elementary school, and I'm sure Tony might have too.
All of the time.
I use teaching as a platform for me to have my own tutoring business. So I put myself out there online and thought, well, first of all, I didn't even pay attention to the paycheck because I loved what I did. So I didn't think that I wasn't getting paid enough for teaching. But I used the tutoring system instead of working for the school to get paid $25 an hour. I chose my own route and I decided that I wanted to get $40 an hour for tutoring. And it worked for me. And we had the summers off. I did not go and do teaching in the summertime like some teachers might do, but they could use that to their advantage too. So there's different ways that we can complain or we can actually use it to benefit us. And I think that's so important, is to look at your situation and utilize the things that are around you. When I started my business, the thing that I had, I'm trying to think if I had a laptop. I did, because I went to grad school for education. I could have said, oh, I wasted all this money on loans and I started my own business that was pointless to go to grad school. But no, I actually feel as though that was really beneficial for me in that point in my life too. But I had a laptop, so I used that laptop to make videos. I didn't have a nice camera. I just used the laptop camera. I could have easily said, well, I can't start my business and teach online because I don't have the best camera. But you have to start someplace. And sometimes that means just putting one foot in front of the other and looking with what's around you. And I know Tony read the book by Damon John, and I know it talks a lot about different things in there.
Yeah, the power of broke, and that's exactly what he's talking about. And Damon John, if for those of you that don't know, he started the fashion brand FUBU, which is now a huge worldwide brand, and he's a great person. I actually met him for a couple minutes at his book signing, and you could just feel the energy radiate off him, that he truly cares and he knows what he's talking about. And in his book, he talks about the power of broke, and the whole message is whenever you are starting off and you're at the very beginning and you may not have all of the resources that you need, but the power of broke comes in whenever you start to get resourceful and you start to use what you have that's in front of you. If you just have a phone with a camera, you use that, or whatever that is in front of you. And that's the whole message behind the power of broke. And he goes through all of these stories of people that actually did this. It actually came from the bottom, and then now they're here. Like now they're at the top, and they keep on rising, and they keep on going. All from being resourceful and having the mindset of, how are things truly? And then they analyze that. How can I work with that?
Mm-hmm. And he does talk about it. We watched the show, The Shark Tank. We love it. He's my favorite shark. But in that, he is. I love him. But he...
How much do you love him?
I know.
No, just kidding.
I think he's awesome, though. I wish I got to meet him that night. He was in Tampa at Oxford Exchange, one of my favorite places to go. But he speaks about that in like the intro to the show, about how his mom actually... I think she put her mortgage on the line just to help him start up his business, and he was doing the business. I think he started with jeans, but I'm not quite sure, or it was a shirt or something. And he started to do that in his own garage or in his house. So you really do have to start someplace if you're someone that does not want to start their own business, this can go into relationships. If you're thinking, well, there's nothing around me that feels like it's someone that is in my path. Like, oh, why do I have to go online to date? Or I'm not in college anymore, so I'm not going to meet someone. Or I don't go to bars anymore, so I can't meet someone. That's like an excuse, and you got to utilize what you have. So figure out what feels right to you to take that extra step. And maybe it is going to Barnes and Nobles and reading a book on relationships, or maybe it's just enjoying the relationship that you have with yourself. But you really have to come back inward when you're wanting things to be different externally, because it really is about your perception on everything. And I believe this is all about perception.
It is. It's perception and it's confidence. And it's really, the more developed you are as a person, the less you fight against how things are, if that makes sense. So I think a lot of people fight against how things are because they have a fear that they can't make it any other way. They can't. So for example, I hear people all the time. I have friends who are musicians, and I read about it too in like different articles, how people say, oh, the internet changed the music industry and it caused a lot of musicians to not be able to earn money. Yeah, it did change a lot of things. But what it also did was it set up a platform for people to actually be seen a lot easier nowadays, because now you just have a phone and you just put yourself on there. So a lot of people, a lot of people are held back because they don't believe that they're internet savvy. So they might be great musicians and they might have, the old system, how it worked of get a record deal, that might have fit them better because they were used to it. And then now that they got to learn a whole new game, kind of like Lindsay did with teaching, because that's really what Lindsay does too. For those of you that don't know, she educates online as well. So she had to learn how to market herself and how to build a business online to do so. Was it a tough process? Was it,
Yes.
Did you want to pull out your hair?
You remember some days
Blood, sweat, and tears?
Crying some days thinking about the technology, trying to figure it all out. Now I have the system in place, which is good.
So do you think that's a reason why a lot of people fight against how things are or how they think they should be?
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge thing. Like a lot of students actually come to me in my psychic medium business class and they're like, I have no clue where to start. Or my state, like if you're a medium listening to this or an intuitive, you might say, well, the state that I live in isn't acceptable, it doesn't accept psychics. I've heard that a lot. I live in a small town, so there's not many people here that would be open to that sort of thing. Every single place that you live in, there's some people that are open to something, but you can also use the internet to your advantage by opening up the belief system, knowing that, oh, I can actually get clients from other places. And you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? You have to start by put the intention out there and start taking baby steps, even if it's creating a Facebook page or creating a website and circulating an ad on Facebook or on Google. And there's like little steps that you have to take. This doesn't necessarily have to just be about business. This is about taking steps in life. So that's a huge thing to think about.
It is a huge thing. And this is not just about business and career. This is about everything. This is about your body. So I hear a lot of people say, well, I want to have this type of body, but it's in my DNA to where I can't. Well, if you see it on other episodes, and if you've been following us long enough, you would know that we do not believe that at all. We believe that through the power of your mind and action and nutrition, you could actually shape your body how you want it to be shaped, actually. So this is how it is too. This is all about looking at how things truly are and not how you think they are. Because like Lindsay said, it's perception. So if we could change our perception of things and we could see things for how they truly are, like how we are infinite, everything is infinite. The proof is in everything. The proof is in us, actually. If you look at all of our records over time, they're just physical records of people running miles and running short distances and biking. Like they're constantly being broken every single decade. We're getting better. We're bringing out more potential out of ourselves. If you look in an apple, you have a seed, and then how many apples are in that seed? We could count how many seeds in an apple, but we can't count how many apples in a seed. That's because it's endless. It's endless potential, And I feel that's how things truly are. And when we start to come from that perspective of infinite and of that we could literally create whatever we want to create, then we actually start to tap into our power and we start to use our energy and our focus and everything that we have to our benefit and in the most efficient manner possible.
Yeah. And that just reminded me of something too. When you mentioned the mountain and different things being broken, I may have spoke about this on another episode, I'm not quite sure, or I was just in conversation. And I don't know the exact mountain, but there was a place where people were trying to hike up this mountain and they thought they could only make it so far, or they didn't think that it could be done. And finally, one person either broke the record and actually climbed up the mountain or went a little bit further than anyone had before. And all of a sudden, everyone started to meet that goal or broke his record, but it was because someone had to do it once. So it is like breaking yourself in to believe that. And sometimes you might have to study about these things to know that there's opportunity in everything to use that to your advantage.
Exactly. Yeah. And definitely education. That's why Lindsay and I were both teachers. I really believe education is a huge piece of it. And I also believe that we are born knowing this already. So that's why like when we start to educate ourselves, it resonates. It's like a musical song. It's like we watch a video, we read a good line, and then it just resonates in harmony like a good song would with us. And it's because we're born already knowing all this. Through educating ourselves, we start to see this way. And when we start to see this way, everything starts to change in our life at a much more rapid pace than it would otherwise.
Yeah.
So
what do you think for action steps that they should do to kind of really master using the things around them? I know we talked about different things like really educating yourself on different things, knowing the power that's within you. But what types of steps?
So with anything you do, just whatever job you're in or whatever business you're in, or even with relationships, I would say just see things for how they truly are. And I know that that's so general because a lot of people, it's perception. So a lot of people think they're seeing things for how they truly are and they're not. So I would say one step that you could take to start actually living this way is, I've given this homework before, is to actually educate yourself on the power of you, on the power of humans, on the power of like start educating yourself on everything that we've already done on this planet, everything that we've already accomplished, and start to see how great we really are. Because I feel like once you start to see that, and I would say spend 30 minutes a day doing that, whether it's reading or watching videos or watching podcasts or whatever it is. And as you start to do that, it's going to resonate. The speakers, the teachers, maybe not all of them, but some of them will start to resonate with you, and you will start to see things from a space of infinite. And I feel like when we get to that space, we could see clearly.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I like that idea to really see clearly. The second thing, and I don't think they need too many things to do for homework, and we're telling you this to do for homework, but this is something that we do all the time too. But the second thing would be to volunteer someplace. I feel like that changes everything. Like a different perspective when you volunteer for something. So if you're finding that, just say you want a dog and you feel like, oh, that's out of my hands, like I can't get a dog right now, go and volunteer at a humane society. If you feel as though you're not feeling so much gratitude about the food that you're eating, go and work at a soup kitchen. Like, do little things that will make you have a different perception on things. I think shaking things up in your life and changing that routine is something that's really important.
Absolutely. I love that.
So, anything else before we go?
No, that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, one more thing. So before we go, maybe one other homework thing you do to get a little bit more specific. So definitely continue to educate yourself, like I said before. And then also, what you want to do is think about things that you've been complaining about, whether it's like a system, like the government system, the president, the school system, because a lot of systems are flawed. And I know that systems actually piss off people because they're flawed, because you can't make them perfect. So think about a system that you complain about, and then start to shift that. Actually think about that system and start to write down the truth about that system and how you could figure out how to work with that truth to get the results that you actually want. Because the reason why you're complaining is because you want results.
Yeah.
And you're not getting them from how things are. So figure out the results you want to get, and then see clearly on how the system actually is, and then figure out how you could work with that to actually get those results.
I
if
like
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That actually is a really specific one. So if you're going to do anything, I would start there. But I feel like you've gotten a lot of information today, and we hope that you've enjoyed it. If there's something that triggered inside of you and you thought, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my thoughts were there. I didn't realize that I had fear-based thoughts around a certain topic, and I could easily switch this by changing my perspective. Let us know. Share with us what moments that came up for you in your mind.
Absolutely. And we love when you guys share with us. And it's been another exciting episode, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.